Today we're fitting a Clake 2 dual control. So the first step to doing this is to prep the unit. So what we do first is remove the lever stop bolt, and that's a 4mm Allen key. Then we remove the slave cylinder off the back of the unit, and this has three 2.5mm Allen keys. Okay, and then there's one 5mm Allen head screw at the top. And we remove this. Then we, grabbing the unit, we fold the levers outwards. Okay, next we fold the levers back into position, like so. Then we remove the blanking plugs from the ports. This is the clutch outlet to which the standard clutch line connects. Then the next step, we roll over the unit, and on the underneath side is the brake outlet port. This is the line that goes directly to the caliper itself. Then with a 5mm Allen key, we remove the handlebar clamp. And now the Clake unit is ready to fit to the bike. Now the next step is we push back the rubber boot on the end of the Brembo master cylinder and loosen the 11mm fitting, like so. Then we remove the line, being careful not to let it drop down so that we lose fluid out of it. So what I'm going to do here is just put it between these two so it's held up in a vertical position. Now we're ready to remove the standard Brembo master cylinder. This is done with an 8mm socket. We just loosen that off like that. Okay, now using the blanking plug supplied in your Clake, we can reinstall this in the Brembo master cylinder and prevent dirt and moisture getting in. Do that up nice and tight. Now we simply install the Clake unit to the handlebar. Now with this, you must make sure the arrow on the clamp is facing upwards. And at this stage, we're just doing these screws up loosely so we can move the unit around on the handlebars to get it level. These handlebar clamps are designed such that the top bolt is designed to be tightened first, firmly, and that bottoms against the body and gives a more rigid structure, and then you can tighten the bottom one to give you the right tension. Okay, now sometimes with the clutch line you'll find that in the standard routing it's too short. You can see it won't quite reach the port there, so what we've got to do is cut all the cable ties holding the clutch line and reroute it so there's enough room. Now we tighten the clutch line fitting into the Clake body. We're using an 11mm again on this. Sometimes you have to, depending on your handlebars, you might want to move the unit along so you can get a proper purchase on the nuts. And we do this up nice and tight. Next, using a 2.5mm Allen key, we remove the clutch reservoir lid. Now, when you remove this, just be careful, underneath is a diaphragm. Just be careful when you place that down, make sure that it stays clean. So we'll place it upside down on the bench over here. It's important at this stage to make sure that the reservoir is as level as possible. So we just tilt that around till that's nice and level before we top the reservoir up with brake fluid, in this case. Now, some bikes will actually use mineral oil and some bikes will use brake fluid. You must use the correct fluid as they're totally incompatible. Now, one thing to remember is to always wear safety glasses when you're bleeding. This is so that this brake fluid can't spray into your eyes. Also, I always like to have something on hand to wipe up spills. Now we're filling up the clutch reservoir, and in this case it's with brake fluid, and we fill it to approximately 3/4 level. And as we go along, I like to wipe up any spills, particularly as it's brake fluid, just to make sure that we don't get any spilt on the bike. Now we fold the levers away from the handlebars, and you'll feel a distinct click when that happens. And then we loosen the clutch bleed screw. This is a 3mm Allen head. Just be careful not to drop the aluminium sealing washer that's underneath the cap head screw. Now with the bleed port open, we fold the levers back into position, and I carefully bring the clutch lever to the bars, then place my finger over the port and then pull the lever back to its rest position. This creates a vacuum and should start drawing the fluid in, so don't remove your finger immediately, just wait a few seconds to allow the fluid to come in. Now place your finger over the port again and then fold the levers out. Then remove your finger and hopefully you should be able to see the fluid rise up in the port just simply from the gravity. And now what we're doing is we're letting the fluid rise up, and you'll see a small bubble just came out then. So it pays to just let it rise up by gravity for say 30 seconds and just keep wiping it so it doesn't spill anywhere. And then once you're satisfied that there's no more air coming out, then return the bleed screw with the sealing washer underneath to close off the port. And then make sure this is done quite firmly up. Now with brake fluid, it's hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture even from just sitting open in the air. So always make sure, if you're not going to be using it for a while, replace the lid. And always use brake fluid from an unopened container, because you just don't know how old that container might be, and the brake fluid may have absorbed too much water, and that will lower the boiling point of it. Now return the levers to their rest position, and you'll see some tiny bubbles just came out of the port there. Then what I recommend you do is just tilt the handlebars so that the left hand side is slightly lower than the right hand side. And what this does is it means the compensation port, which is the tiny port in the cylinder, is at the highest point, and that allows the air to come out that port, and that's our aim. So then what I recommend you do is pull in. Because of the clutch assist, you must do it with one finger either side of the lever so it just doesn't snap in. We pull it in, and hopefully we've got a little bit of pressure there at the end, which is good, slowly. And the aim of this, and you can see some air coming out just then, the aim of this is, if there's air in the system, we don't want to force it back down the line. We want it to stay up high. So we pull the lever in slowly, but we release it quickly, and that way it'll tend to drag the air back into the cylinder. So we snap that back out quickly, and notice we had to push that out. That's normal, because the clutch assist system, without the back pressure from the clutch itself, will always want to naturally go to the bars. And it's just a matter of repeating that until all the air's out of the system. Okay, now with this part of the process, or with bleeding in general, it's very important to be patient and make sure you get all the air out. So it's just a matter of now just working the lever back. So we've got all the way in, and then we go out fast, and then in slow, out fast, and we just keep repeating this until no air bubbles reappear in the reservoir. Okay, now we've got to the point where we've got a fair bit of clutch pressure happening, but just see at the end, it's not quite returning. So every so often what it pays to do is actually fold the levers outwards. Now it's getting harder to do as the pressure's building up, and what this does is take the piston back past the port and helps you clear any air from the system. And then I just simply work the lever backwards and forwards from this point, not bring it back into position, and that'll get some more of the air out hopefully. Now that we've got the clutch bled, what we do is top the fluid reservoir up, and I like to top it up to about 3 mil from the top. And in that way, when you return the reservoir lid to it, you'll find that the fluid will actually overflow, but in this way you're ensuring that there's no chance of air getting it in should you flip the bike up. So what I like to do is have something to mop up the excess fluid as it goes on, and then tighten this down. Okay, now one of the issues that can happen is that without the end cover, in the case of a standard Clake, or the actual slave cylinder in the case of a dual control, if you fold the levers out violently, sometimes the actual clutch pin can come out. And that's this little pin here. Now, should that happen, this must be returned to position with the ball going into the rocker arm like such. And then that goes in and into the piston. And then you just fold, while you keep your finger on there, just fold the lever back in, and it's all fixed.